majority of college coaches, when they speak to you, they really know how to talk and sell their program. There's little details that you really have to pay attention to see if you're really wanted within that program. You have a lot of people say, I want to go to FIU or I want to go to any school, and you've never really seen them play. The majority of these games are streamed, so you can watch them play, see what fits your style.
How do you compete with those players as an American player?
You see so many talented players, or so many players that probably have more talent than you, but being able to use what you have, maybe it's speed, maybe it's staying healthy throughout an entire season. Those kind of small details are what set you apart, and sometimes being able to adapt to players that are coming from high level.
How do you become the first name on the team sheet in college?
Being able to always be available at the end of the day gives you a small advantage over players that sometimes I have a little pain in my hamstring, or my knee hurts a little bit. Here's the guy that I can always trust, that's always going to be available. And in the long run, at the end of the day, you're always on the field.
How do I stay motivated and committed to play college soccer?
Incentivizing winning gets some athletes to have that mindset, and it gets them through the roof. It's always keeping doors open.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Select Generation podcast. Today, we've got a really exciting episode. We're going to be talking to Andoni. So, Andoni is someone that's played at Division 1 level. He grew up playing in the US youth system. So, I know recently on the podcast, I've been talking to a lot of international guys. I don't know if that's just because I gravitate towards international players like kind of me being from outside America, but I think it's interesting always to get like a domestic perspective of a player that's kind of grown up in the system, played at the Division 1 level there. I think Anthony's a success story, and ultimately, I think he's a role model for what he's done and achieved in the game and where he's got to and where he is now. So excited to kind of talk to him about his recruiting process, what worked for him, what he sees about, the Division 1 level and his perspective. But yeah, Anthony, thank you for being here with us today. I really appreciate your time. And for someone listening to this that doesn't know who you are, doesn't know your background, the schools that you've played at, what's your footballing story?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And yeah, just to move on to my footballing story. So, I grew up in Miami, Florida, born and raised here, but my family's from the north region of Spain, particularly Bilbao. And yeah, so I grew up here playing youth soccer in the Miami system, in the United States system. I actually played youth soccer. What was part of U.S. youth soccer back in the day. It was either youth soccer or the DA, which was managed by US Soccer, which is now the famous MLS Next. I was recruited. I signed right before going into my senior year. I was recruited by a couple schools, and ultimately the decision came to join FIU, where I loved it. I played there. I attended FIU for 3.5 years, played for four falls. I was an early graduate and graduated in December. And then I always say, fortunately and unfortunately, COVID hit and I tore my ACL. So I had an extra year of eligibility. And that's when I decided I had to see something new. I had been in Miami my whole life here at FIU, and I decided to move up north. I got on the transfer portal. I got a very attractive offer from Philadelphia, a small Division 1 school called LaSalle University that competes in the A10. And I made the move up to the cold, see something new, meet new people, see what a different region of the US looks like. And it was a great experience. I played there for initially it was just going to be a spring of 23 and fall of 23. Unfortunately, I tear my ACL once again, but quitting was not in the plans. So once again, surgery, recovery, and ended up playing spring of 24 and fall of 24. Amazing experience. Don't regret anything at all. So essentially, I was part of with the medical red shirts, and I was essentially part of 6 college rosters. And I mean, met so many people, so many coaches, and really like to analyze the game both from an internal perspective and from an external perspective.
Yeah, right. Love that. It's an awesome story, Anthony. And I'm sure we'll get into the injury later. But for you as a domestic player growing up in Miami, how was your recruiting process? Because a lot of the players we talk to, for example, going to FIU, there's a lot of internationals on the roster, there's a lot of transfer students. You came through the DA or the MLS Next system. Were you getting college coaches contacting you every week? Did you have to be the ones reaching out to them, going to camp showcases? How was your recruiting process from the moment you were like, I want to play college until getting your offer?
Yeah. Yeah, the recruiting process was a stressful one, but looking back on it, it's exciting. It's a great time. I think one of the common misconceptions is like, oh, okay, it's my senior year of high school, and like, let me start looking for colleges. Like, you have to start way before. So I knew I wanted to do it my sophomore year to play college soccer, and I knew that junior year was the time that I had to decide. I was actually at this time playing in the US youth soccer system, which is not the DA or MLS next, just because facility to get into transportation and where we trained and all that kind of stuff. I was in a very good club, probably one of the best clubs in terms of the association that was not DA, and we were attending very good tournaments, showcases. I came up with not really a resume, but a page of a soccer resume, let's say, where I had a link to my highlight tape, different achievements that I've had, different teams that I had been a part of, or trainings that I had been a part of, and I would send those out to college coaches. Now, funny enough, I did receive a couple responses from those college coaches that I would send the emails to, but the ones that I got closest to going and very close in the recruiting process were actually schools that just saw me play and sent me out and reached out to me. But yeah, it was a good time, and yeah, I decided before going into senior year. It was at
So
the end it was four schools.
So when you say you decided, what does that mean? Does that mean that you were like, okay, I'm going to build a list of schools. Okay, I'm going to go to this camp. Were you asking your coach? Like when you say you decided, what did you need to do to get attention?
Yeah, so my decision was based on obviously a balance of academics, location, and soccer. And so initially I began with a list of around 20, 25 schools, um, different levels of academics, different levels of soccer, just putting everything into a balance, reached out to them. And then obviously there has to be the next filter is the schools that are actually interested. So when the schools that reach back out, additionally with the ones that saw me play, that's when you create a new list. You filter out the ones that maybe you didn't receive responses from, and that's when you begin conversations with the coaches, see what they have to say. Honestly, if there's one thing I have to say, the majority of college coaches, when they speak to you, they really know how to talk and sell their program. So there's little details that you really have to pay attention to see if you're really wanted within that program. And then you sit with, well, personally, I sat with my close family, and then you start deciding from a financial standpoint, from an athletic standpoint, academics, the future, and you come up with a decision.
So you got recruited to like a top Division 1 program. Were you, when you started the recruiting process, were you like, I have to play Division 1? Were you like, I'd be open to do D3? Were you like just reaching out to Division 1 schools? What was kind of your thought process?
Yeah. So in that initial list of 20, I had the majority of Division 1 schools because me myself, I believe that I could play at that level. Another thing that I do have to mention is I was also very aware of the level of Division 1. You have a lot of people say, I want to go to FIU or I want to go to any school, and you've never really seen them play. And the majority of these games are streamed, so you can watch them play, see what fits your style. So when you create that list, I had an idea of what styles they played, in addition to external things like academics and stuff like that. So yeah, when that decision came, I had Division 1 schools, and then there's a league in the Northeast, an academic institutions that are very, very good academically. The Brandeis, I think it's called the NESCAC actually. It's Brandeis, NYU, that are D3 schools that have very strong academics. So I had also those singled out, and that's how I came up with my list. But yeah, I don't regret my decision to go to FIU at all. Amazing level,
I was
top
going
facilities, and
how did you, because obviously we spoke, you listened to the podcast with Matthias, with Matteo, and they were playing at like the best academies in Europe.
yeah.
How do you compete with those players as an American player?
Yeah, I think it's your level of being able to adapt. You see so many talented players or so many players that essentially probably have more talent than you, but being able to use what you have, maybe it's speed, maybe it's staying healthy throughout an entire season. Those kind of small details are what set you apart, and sometimes being able to adapt to players that are coming from high levels. I mean, Matteo played in an Italian national team with Donnarumma, Matthias's brother played against Mbappe. Like, these guys are coming from really high levels, and one of the disadvantages, and I know Matteo and Matthias both talked about it, and Yannick actually spoke about it as well, is the access that they have to playing men's football. When you play men's football and you play against a 25-year-old guy that knows how to place his body, and you just get a different savviness out of it that you don't get through the youth soccer system of America, just because of how it's built. So I think being able to adapt, listen, get different things that you like about these players, and just elevating your game, and being patient, staying mentally right. I know there's a big focus on mental aspect these days. I know it sounds very cliche. A lot of people tell you, "Oh, take care of your mind." It's true. Taking care of your mind and being able to adapt is a very important thing of making.
So for you, Anthony, obviously FIU are going to watch a lot of players, right? They're working with agents, they're talking to international players, they're going and
Yeah.
watching youth American players in the area. Why do you think that they recruited you?
Yeah, so I was around Miami at the time when they were recruiting me. I was probably one of the top players. I did reach out to FIU. I had gone to a couple games. There was a relationship, um, and I just think that I was able to reach that level. It was also a different coaching staff that recruited me. It wasn't a guy on the staff that's now. But I think it's there were small details. At the time I was a forward, and there was more details than just scoring goals or assisting or performing. A lot of these coaches look at your attitude on the field. Are you getting carded for saying something to the referee? Are you getting in arguments with other players, with other coaches, with parents? Sometimes in Miami, you have a lot of Latin soccer players and Latin soccer parents that like to scream and like to say their things at games. Are you getting carried away by those things? It's a detail that maybe some people don't really pay attention to it, but college coaches are looking at it. And I mean, the staff when they recruited me, they told me, oh, we watched this game where you didn't react poorly to this call, or different kind of details like that that set you apart at the end of the day.
And how was your going in as a freshman process different to the transfer process? How is getting recruited as a freshman different to the transfer process?
Yeah, I mean, getting recruited as a freshman, you're just very new, and you're full of excitement. You don't really know what to expect. Social media, you get posted, oh, incoming freshman. Your friends kind of hype you up, like, wow, you went Division 1, you're going. And I think there is a small time in that freshman recruiting process where you do have to pat yourself on the back and say, hey, I reached a goal. I'm very proud of what I did. But it has to be a very short period of time, because you have to start preparing to show up in come August. Well, in my case, it was June. We did captain's training my freshman year, which was a huge thing that we did that year. And on a personal level, it helped me so much because I kind of knew the level to expect when I jumped into preseason. But yeah.
And what is your advice to a player that is, because let's say that I'm 16, 17, I'm similar to you. I live in New York, California, Boston, Florida.
Yeah.
Like, okay, Anthony, I want to play not just Division 1, but I want to play college soccer. What do I need to do?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say start from a very early age and put things into the perspective, put things into a big perspective. It's not just this school is good, this school social media posts are nice, this school wears Nike and Adidas, and I'm gonna get a bunch of free gear. There's so much more that goes into it. What are you gonna do after you play soccer? And let's say hypothetically you do not make it to the professional level, or you getting a degree that you're not going to be able to jump into the professional work life, or you're getting a degree that really means something. Are you willing to go to a location that's completely in the middle of nowhere, let's say? So you have to put things in a balance and start off very young. Sometimes at 15, 16, you get carried away by Instagram videos, by all of that kind of stuff, and you just want to go to school because they're good, because they generated a pro, but you cater your decision towards your needs, and always to a certain degree be selfish and look for yourself and for your benefit to be able to choose a college.
Perfect. That's really good advice. How would you compare youth soccer to college soccer? Like, what are the college soccer players doing, or how is the environment different to what you were used to growing up?
It's particularly for the US aspect of things, it's a whole different thing. It's a different speed, different professionalism. Um, yeah, that's probably like the biggest difference that you see, or the biggest jump or the shock that you'll see, is that youth soccer to being able to walking into a preseason. Um, just this one, speed of play, the ball moves 10 times faster. Two, the savviness. And when I say savviness, it's those winning the referee battle, being able to get in a player's mind, those very small things that people when you play college have, and sometimes when you play youth soccer, you really don't see it. Speed of play, being able to walk into a locker room that you usually in youth soccer in America, you don't have a locker room. The locker room is a big thing for me in college, and being able to know how to behave, how to respect the older guys. You can't be a freshman and walking in cracking jokes to the older guys. You have to be very respectful and basically adapt through time.
And what is going to the locker room at FIU versus the locker room at LaSalle? Obviously, FIU is competing for national championships. LaSalle is competing for a conference title. Did you see like a difference in the types of players that both schools recruited, or how the locker room was between
Yes.
both?
Yes, yes. Very different. So when the majority of players that get to FIU are very well, a lot of international players, but the majority of them, you ask them, hey, what are you here to do? I'm here to play very extremely well, and in 1, 2, 3 years, get my degree and go play professionally. That's the common goal across, I would say, 95% of the FIU roster. Now, when you go up north, and particularly when I went to LaSalle, you do get one or two guys that say, "Hey, yes, I want to excel. Hopefully, I can become a professional." But you get a lot of guys that are there to excel within the team and win games and be able to have a good time. But maybe the common goal is not to be a professional soccer player just because they want to be or they want to utilize their degree to walk into a company or whatever it is. I would say that that end goal and the hunger of players to reach the next level athletically is the main difference that I saw in both locker rooms.
Interesting. Do you see differences in between FIU competing kind of like in the South and that conference versus like North? Because I played college soccer in New Hampshire, and in the Northeast it was very physical, a bit more direct when
Yes.
we play against different teams. Maybe it was a bit more technical. Did you see different styles of football?
Yeah, a super different styles of football. I mean, you watch FIU, and initially my freshman year and every year thereafter, you see players, you see wingers that will have that bicycle and get fouled, and you see that savviness, that different kind of play that you see sometimes in Europe or you see in Latin America, and I don't know, the different kinds of play down here that you just that you know are a little bit different or you don't really see in America. And when you go up north, you see a lot of much more I would say like survival. Don't get scored on, and let's see if we score, and let's see if it's off a long throw in or if it's off a long ball that somebody slips and you win 1-0, you win 2-1, you wait for the mistake, and you see a lot more of that in the Northeast. There are a couple of in the Northeast good playing schools, UPenn themselves, Syracuse, Penn State, but in from a general perspective, usually it's much more physical.
And then in terms of like being successful on a college roster, because I was speaking to Matteo and he was saying you need to be coachable, you need to be adaptable, You need to understand the game. I speak on a lot of podcasts like professional players that are saying, I'm not a pro because I was the best player in my college team. I'm a pro because I understood the role and teams knew what I could give them. So for someone
Yeah.
that's going into a college roster, that's like, okay, I want to play, I want to get minutes, I want to be important. How do you make a good impact with the coach? Like, how do you become the first name on the team sheet in college?
Yeah. One, you have to build that trust with your coach. And I think the main thing is always being the main thing you can always do is put everything from your part to always be available. We had a guy actually in our it was my junior year, amazing center mid, came from Germany, very good player, but just Matthias and Matteo were actually in the middle playing extremely well. And this guy, an amazing player, but couldn't break into that midfield pair that was just doing very well. But he was always available. He was always healthy, and he was always performing in training. Maybe not performing how Matias and Matteo were, but he was always performing, and he was always available. Whenever Matias had a small injury, whenever a right back had a small injury, he would step in. And being able to always be available at the end of the day gives you a head start. It gives you a small advantage over players that sometimes I have a little pain in my hamstring or my knee hurts a little bit. Here's the guy that I can always trust. That's always going to be available. And in the long run, at the end of the day, you're always on the field, whether it's in one position in the other position, but you're available. And that's usually the guy that whenever something happens or the coach needs a person to trust, it's that guy.
Wow.
So be available at all times. Obviously, do everything from your part to be available.
That's amazing. That's really good advice. I don't think I've heard that before, but it's so true, especially in the college season when it's so short. You got a game like Wednesday,
So
Saturday,
short.
Friday. You need
Yeah.
what's true. And then obviously you talked a little bit about your injuries. You had ACL, did your ACL again. How was your injury process? Because I spoke to Matteo a lot and he was saying like mentally is the toughest thing. Like you can kind of go to the gym, speak to the physio, do your strengthening, but mentally it's like, am I going to be
Yeah.
the same? Am I going to be back? How was your injury process the first time and the second time? Were they the same? Were they different? How was it?
Yeah. Yeah, they were really different. I was never a guy. I always tell people that I have a very clean injury history. I have two injuries my whole life, but it's two ACLs. So the first injury was in that COVID spring that they moved from the fall. And actually in the fall, speaking about availability, the last day of the fall, our coach says, "Oh, there's only been I think there was two players the entire we only trained in the fall." But there was only two players that the entire fall were available for every training. Obviously, if you got COVID or if you had a knock, you were out of training, and one of them was myself. I was available all of that fall, and then I missed the entire spring with my injury. So it was coming into preseason. We were playing we had some people down because of contact tracing with COVID, and it was just in a regular 8v8 or 9v9 on our game field that I got stuck. Nobody really touched me or anything, and I went down and I knew there was something wrong in MRI and injured. So we scheduled surgery 2 3 weeks after, and my first thought was okay, like let's get surgery and let's get to the process where it doesn't depend on somebody operating me. It just depends on me recovering, and that's when it was just me recovering was the when the mental aspect came in. The first thing that I really wanted to do was always be at training watching. And after being at training for 2 3 weeks, I realized it was causing something that you want to be in there. And at the end of the day, you can't. So it's just better to be inside with the physio or doing your exercises. So I started doing on field the small little exercises, not really much. The ACL recovery is very black and white. It's very on a timeline. So started doing my exercises on the field. And then the off season came. So the off season in around April, we were done. And that's when it got very difficult. There's no soccer you can watch. There was nothing visually motivating that I could say I want to be in that training session. It was just me against myself and against my timeline and against my doctor that was going to clear me. So start finding different little hobbies. I got into, for example, like stocks and following market trends and that kind of stuff during the my first ACL. So that was a little. a little thing that I learned throughout that recovery. And the funnest part is definitely that last month of recovery where you're getting back to playing, you're very excited, and like getting that first second of play time after the entire recovery is the greatest feeling. Now, also, and if anybody goes through a big injury, and I hope nobody goes through it, but the process of coming back is also very tricky. You come back and you're healthy, your knee and you're cleared and everything, but the process of like mentally coming back on the field is very difficult because you're not your mind is still very scared. I remember initially I would get a ball, and the moment I heard somebody went like put a shoulder, I was extremely scared, and to the point where you lose the ball, you have no confidence. So that's another aspect of the recovery that's very difficult. The second one was very different. So the second one I tear it in March, and
Was
there was really no.
it differently?
It was the other one.
Okay.
Yeah. So well, I got surgery for the first one in February, and I was actually able to. I played in the fall. We win the conference championship, so that was a great individual prize for myself to win the championship after being able to recover. But the second one I tear it in March, so surgery was going to be in April, and there was really no hope for me making it to the fall. So it was much more of a relaxed recovery. And also the doctors just wanted to take it a little bit slower since it was the second one. I ended up not going back to Philadelphia for that fall semester. I stayed home. I completed an internship also to get some professional experience and recover by myself. And so I had the spring to adapt. So with spring training to adapt and get your mind back, it was much easier.
Is there anything you would have done differently about your injury processes? Is there anything you kind of learned about the recovery process that you wish you knew before?
Um, yes, I would probably say, um, so for the say that there's I think for the first one there was a lot of prevention I could have done. I was more of a guy that since I really never had any injuries, I was a guy that for the training room, I would ice bath, I would do boots, I would stretch out and foam roll. I would really do the basic things, but there's so many more exercises that you can do. The little incline stretching machine, like that machine is amazing to really protect your knees. Walking backwards on the treadmill really protects your knees. So those kind of prevention things that you could do is something that I wish I really would have done earlier. Maybe I still would have torn my ACL, but you never know.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I want to ask you a question that I asked players is, from your experience, you've played in a locker room with guys that have gone on to get drafted, to go professional. You've also played in a locker room with guys who went to college, didn't play, didn't take advantage of that opportunity. So, for players listening that go pro after college, what are the players that go to the USL, to go to MLS draft? What are they doing that other players are not doing in college?
Yeah, I mean they're consistent. That's first of all, they're consistent with what they do. Whether it's a habit that maybe it's a weird habit, let's say, or it's just good habits all along, they're consistent. So being consistent is one thing that you can't be, on an off day, on an off day it's always nice to sleep in, but you can't be a guy that, we have 3 days off and I'm gonna sleep till noon every single day and go out at night. Be consistent, take care of your body, and whatever you do, just always be consistent. And then the other thing that sets those guys apart, and the first one I can remember is Steven. And Steven Afrifa is playing in Sporting Kansas City now. Is the mindset. These guys they're killers. It comes from within. They have a killer mindset that they want to go play, win. The obsession with winning is very important. Being able to incentivize, and I think that's something that at FIU was really well done. Incentivizing winning, whether it's that the loser does 10 push-ups or cleans the equipment, whatever it is, but incentivizing winning um, gets some athletes to have that mindset and it gets them through the roof. For example, Steven was a guy that, he struggled a little bit in that freshman adaptation period, and he struggled a little bit when Kyle also came in. But when he switched that mind, it was just Steven would get the ball and he wanted it was just a killer mentality that sets him apart. And I can say that about, for example, another goalkeeper that's playing professionally from FIU, Matt Levy. He's playing at Charlotte. He was a guy that he didn't play at FIU as much as I think he would have liked, but he showed up every day. If he had to do whatever he had to do to save that shot, that cross, whatever it was, he was a killer. So that having that mindset and developing it is something that sets these guys super apart.
Amazing. Perfect. And then, Anthony, last question, the podcast. What is the best piece of feedback or the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Thing is, but probably when I received it, you think it's like super cliche and like, oh, I've heard this 5 million times. Um, Take care of yourself as a whole, of who you are, your body, your mind. It's what defines you on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, whatever it is. But it's what you are. There's nothing like being unhealthy or injured. It eats your mind alive. There's a saying in Spanish that says that basically, when your mind and your heart are good, your body responds. So always being able to take care of those aspects of the game of your life, and it will resemble on the field. Um, Studying different things, being able to carry yourself out as a good person, a good human being, is usually synonymous to good performances, trust, consistency on the field.
Amazing topic. And then just last, actually, if I'm an American player trying to get recruited to go to college and I don't think I'm good enough because FIU and Division One schools are getting 23-year-old freshmen, they're getting guys from Spain, Asia, Brazil, everywhere. How do I stay motivated and committed to play college soccer when I'm competing against guys that I don't think I can keep up with?
Yeah, I think that's a misconception of a player nowadays, thinking like, oh, like I'm not good enough. First of all, maybe it might be true you're not good enough at the moment. But there is so many. I mean, the transfer portal is just becoming bigger and bigger, not only in soccer but in every sport. Being able to understand that maybe you have to go Division Two, you have to go JUCO. Now there's a new JUCO rule where JUCO years do not take years of your NCAA eligibility. So that's a huge thing for players now. And if you are not initially going to Division One, being able to analyze your options and just wherever you go try to be the best version of yourself, not only the best player, but develop relationships across the field, across your coaches. On another advice, and sorry that I didn't mention it in the question before, but I just remembered, is always keeping doors open. You never know who you're going to encounter in life, whether it's a coach, whether it's a player, and being able to ask that player or approach that player and him have positive things to say about you or him lend you a hand is a huge thing. I always, with the first coaching staff that recruited me, with Kyle and his staff, and with Lisao and his staff, I really think that if I were to ask for a favor or if any kind of situation would come up and I were to give them a call, I think I'm on very good terms with a door open for help. But to the question of a player that might be a little bit discouraged about not receiving a Division One offer, go Division Two, go Division Three, develop relationships, be the best version of yourself that you can, and then start analyzing your opportunities to come into the Division One world that is an amazing athletic world.
Amazing. Anthony, some really good advice. Your story is it's really inspiring to hear back your injuries and your perspective and
Yeah,
appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much.
no, thank you. I really appreciate it.